We are Chris Lee and Blake Lovell of Southeastern 14, presented by Stakes. We are doing power rankings heading into week 12. Good grief. It's been quite the morning here at Southeastern 14. We've had technical glitches. We got human glitches now. But anyway, we're getting to power rankings. And Blake, I'm going to do tiers today, okay? We're going to walk through tiers because sometimes teams are in groups and it's not real clear who's ahead of each other. We're going to start with the tier of misery.
So yeah, I think it's pretty clear on this tier. I think it's pretty clear who's at the bottom of this tier.
Well, there's three teams at the bottom. All right, here's our three teams. We got two from the West. We've got Auburn and Texas A&M. We've got Vanderbilt. Auburn beat A&M, so Auburn's got to be ahead of A&M, right?
You're really building this up, aren't you?
I'm building the drama.
I'm just flat out telling you, A&M's the worst team in the SEC right now, according to our power rankings, and that's not just me and Chris. It was unanimous. Everybody put A&M 14th. Please continue.
Well, I was going to say, I was going to build a little drama here, and you didn't let me do it. I was going to say, one team spent $14 billion. Did you know that? On NIL in the offseason.
Well, I think people know that's not Vanderbilt.
The other team spent $14.14 on NIL.
I was going to say, everybody knows it wasn't Vanderbilt in that one. So
and the one that clipped the coupon is 13, and the one that overspent is 14.
I mean, someone like, I get it, and people. I mean, what do we say? I mean,
all jokes aside, can you believe we were having this conversation? Like, if I told you before the season they're going to meet in middle of November, and A&M would be last in our power rankings, and we talked about the scenarios which young team, lots of money spent, coaches perceived to have underachieved a little bit. Those are all the recipes there for a disaster, but holy smokes. At some point, you would have thought that talent would have overcome some of that, and it has not.
Well, and that's the thing is, like, again, these are our staff composite rankings, so all of our staff sends in their individual rankings, and again, it was unanimous. I think if you just watched it, is Texas A&M more talented than Vanderbilt? Of course, but if we're power ranking teams, Vanderbilt just went on the road and beat Kentucky, which I know Kentucky's going in the wrong direction. But
Kentucky was ranked in the college football playoffs
at the time. They were 24th. A&M hasn't won a game since they beat Arkansas, which again seems like 2 years ago at this point. And I know you can say, well, they've been in a lot of close games. At some point, especially when you're spending the money they're spending, like we were in every game doesn't equate. Like, you have to win some of those. And I just think look, we're not picking on A&M, but if you watch the SEC, they're 3-7, they're 1-6 in the league. The numbers are what they are. Have they lost some close games? Yes. They could have beaten Alabama. They could have beaten South Carolina. Could have beaten Ole Miss. Could have beaten Auburn. But they didn't. They didn't win any of them. And I mean, here they are. I mean, they're easily one of the most disappointing, if not the most disappointing team in the country this season. And that's not us picking on A&M. That's just statistically where things stand right now. So.
Okay, now we get to the tier of nobody's really happy, but everybody's bowl eligible or about to be.
Shout out to Auburn. I mean, Auburn got to win. Give them some credit. We talked about that. Like, that was somebody had to win that game, right? Auburn won the game. They didn't move up much.
Auburn has not quit. Auburn has not quit.
No, I mean,
and that means something at this point.
They were in the game at Mississippi State. They found a way to win the A&M game. It was, a defensive-minded game, which we expected. So, yeah, I mean, I give some credit to Auburn too, because they were the one that kind of stopped the slide, right? Them and A&M were in the same spot, but Auburn found a way to win the game, and so they were deservedly ahead at that point. So,
okay, the tier of bowl eligible or could be. You've got 3 6-4 teams here and 1 4-6 team. We went in reverse order: South Carolina at 11, Missouri 10. Kentucky 9, which I think is the lowest the Cats have been all year, and Mississippi State at 8, which I think State's still a decent to good team. In my mind, State is maybe State and Kentucky are certainly a notch ahead of Missouri and South Carolina. So maybe that's two different tiers, but however you slice it, I don't know that anybody in that tier is really happy this week. I still think State's got a chance to have a good season. Kentucky, if it can beat Louisville, that'll ease the mood a little bit in Lexington. South Carolina looked awful at Florida, but still 6-4 bowl eligible. And Missouri has got a layup game this weekend. And then what a chance to maybe beat Arkansas to get bowl eligible, and that game's in Columbia. So all these teams here still with something to play for. I don't think any of them are bad teams. Sometimes we associate mediocre records with bad teams, but it's the SEC. It's a brutal league week in and week out, and that's just how it goes.
Yep. No, that's how it goes. Like I said, I don't, some of these teams have looked good at times, other times have not, and that's kind of what you expect from teams that fall in this range in our power ranking. So, yeah, I mean, certainly I think the Kentucky one coming just losing to Vanderbilt, they have certainly slid way further down than we probably would have thought that they would be at this point in the season. Missouri, even with the loss to 66 points given up to Tennessee, they still kind of stay in the same spot because it's like, well, you still don't really think you can move them down that much, even though they did just get blown out at Tennessee. But South Carolina, I keep saying, even now, Chris, I still don't know what to do with South Carolina. I say that every week in my power rankings. I feel like they're the team that I just don't know my individual
Yeah.
rankings. Where do I put them? Like, I have no idea. Because again, Marshawn Lloyd not playing, I think that's significant, especially in a game like they had against Florida. I just think that could have. I'm not saying they would have won the game, but obviously I think it would have been a little bit different scoring wise if they're able to have their best playmaker on offense. So, yep, that's where things stand, and we'll see if there's any separation with these four the rest of the way.
Well, and also if we're talking injuries, Will Levis just hasn't been the same guy, and that's really hurting Kentucky right now. The combination of him being hobbled and their offensive line not being able to pass block anybody has been a killer.
Yeah, I mean Kentucky's again they are on the slide right now because they are coming off a loss to a team that hadn't won 26 games in the SEC. So yeah, it's interesting to think where they're at right now. But I mean, even the game against Missouri we talked about, it was certainly a win, and you'll take that. But got to finish up with Georgia and Louisville, which will not be two easy games. So
Okay, before we get to the top half of our ratings, shout out to our sponsor, Stakes. You can predict sports better than the crowd for a chance to win NFTs. With Stakes, players can cement their sports predictions against friends, other fans, and influencers forever. Don't let your sports genius go overlooked. Join Stakes. Have the best prediction captured in the moment. Head to Play with Stakes. That's stakes.com/14. Use our invite code Southeastern14. Get a double welcome bonus. Free to join, free to play. It's not a betting app, it's a predictions app. You can beat your friends, you can beat us in your predictions, you can win stuff all for free. What's not to like? Get in the Stakes app today and help out the folks who help us. Okay. Leading off the top half of our countdown at number 7, Arkansas. Frankly, I think we made a mistake here. I think Mississippi State should be ahead of Arkansas, but that's not how the vote went. Anyway, the Razorbacks, who just have had a rough year in terms of injuries and things like that, and losing some close games, check in at number 7 this week.
yeah, I mean they're another team. I think it's hard to figure out because they've had injuries. KJ Jefferson hasn't played. Again, we kept saying you can play the what if game. Him not playing against LSU, how different is that? Who knows? So I think it's just those kind of things. But yeah, and look, I know people are gonna be like, well, head to head, Mississippi State beat Arkansas, but as we always say, it's the individual rankings are what they are, and more people in our staff had Arkansas ahead of Mississippi State. That's why they're in this range. But what separates them just in terms of where both teams are at right now, not just the head to head game. I don't know. So I think that's kind of where we are on that. And
Well,
yeah,
I'll
look,
give you a couple things.
well, I
State
know,
is
I
scoring
know.
5 points a game more than opponents. Arkansas is scoring a point more.
Well, I
There's
mean,
also head to head. I think we messed that up, but
well, we
anyway.
didn't mess it up though. It's an individual vote. Like we
Right.
didn't mess it
I'm
up.
saying
It's
I think
just,
our group got it wrong. Yeah,
well, I don't think they got it wrong. I just think it's their opinion. So
sure.
lay off of them, Chris. Lay off of our staff. We have great staff at Southeastern
We
14.
do. We do.
Um, yeah, that's fine. If look, I wouldn't be mad putting it either way, but we are talking about the 7 and 8 team. So if it was 1 and 2, maybe a lot stronger debate. But two teams I think that would like to have more wins than they do right now. And Arkansas schedule, like you said, it's just they get Ole Miss now, and they got to go to Missouri. What a schedule this year for the Razorbacks. So
Okay, this next team I think is in kind of a group by its own. Florida's been playing really well lately. It played maybe its best game of the year this weekend in a demolition of a hobbled South Carolina team with Marshawn Lloyd out. But we said this before the year. Billy Napier was going to bring discipline to Gainesville. Florida is the least penalized team in the league. It is leading in turnover margin. It is getting better. I think you could see the Gators. Let's see, what do they got left? They got Vandy and Nashville this week, and then a rivalry game with Florida State. I would not be stunned if Florida runs the table, goes 9-4, and sneaks in the top 25 after bowl season.
be 8-4, right? Is that right? Vanderbilt.
Well,
Florida
a
State.
bowl win would be 9.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I thought you meant going into the bowl. Yeah. I mean, no, I think I've pushed Florida a lot over the past several weeks. I said even in the Georgia game, I think you could see some things that are those flashes that maybe were not there consistently earlier in the season. You could still see some of that even in the Georgia game. Obviously got, Jaden Daniels did what he did in the game against LSU. But yeah, I mean, this is a team that I think has certainly found its way, and its way has been just running and running and running because, those three guys we keep talking about, their ability to run the ball, they've had a lot of success with that. And yeah, now they get a very nice matchup against Vanderbilt. But let's say it, like they beat Vanderbilt. That Florida State game, that's a big
It's a
game.
lot.
That's a big game because you're talking about a Florida team that could finish the season, like you said, with 4 straight wins, a win on the road at a rival Florida State, who right now, what I think they're in the top 25 still. Like that would be a huge way to cap off your season. So obviously don't want to look ahead past the Vanderbilt team that just won, but I think this Florida team sets up really nicely for a very strong finish here.
I've got a little nugget on the Gators. I'll save that for our Wednesday night live stream. Okay, now we get to the tier of 3 teams that I think are really good but not elite. By the way, there are 5 teams in the SEC that are averaging double-digit scoring margins, and these teams are all ahead in the countdown. Nobody to this point is averaging more than 5.1 more points more than it gives up. Mississippi State is that team at 5.1 and Florida at 5.0. Anyway, very, very clear separation in these top 5 teams from what's below. Although, again, I think Florida could challenge that by season's end. You got Ole Miss at 5, which just lost at home to Alabama, which is 4, which has to be behind LSU at 3 because of what's happened when LSU has played those 2 teams.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. Yeah, I mean, look, it's we said right. It was just a matter of who won these games. That's where they'd be slotted in our power rankings. And obviously, another great game. LSU Alabama had a great game. Alabama Ole Miss had a great game. LSU Ole Miss was not as great, but a dominant win for LSU. So, yeah, I mean, this is where these 3 teams are at. And LSU, as we know now, the representative in the SEC championship game from the West, and we'll play the number 1 team in our rankings, and then there's the team in between them that is still holding out hope that a strong finish and some nice style points that they got this past weekend will somehow land them ahead of a TCU team that did not lose a game. Some people thought they would.
Yeah, the computers still have Alabama better than the other 2 teams in this range for whatever it's worth, but that's not how power rankings work. In fact, the computers still have Alabama pretty close to the next team in this countdown, which is Tennessee at 2, Georgia at 1. I mean, were you expecting anything else? Georgia statistically the most dominant team in the league, averaging 29 points a game more than its opponents and 2.8 yards per play more than its opponents. Tennessee's numbers there, 25.5 and 1.8. Yeah, Georgia's the only unbeaten team, the clear number 1 favorite in the seeding for the college football playoff. I still think the Vols are getting there. Be interesting to see what comes out on Tuesday night. Of course, there's going to be a lot of scoreboard watching in Knoxville, but Don't see either of these teams losing their final 2 regular season games.
Yep, coming a long way from the Georgia may start slow because they got a lot of guys to replace, and here they are. They're 10-0. And I thought the way they won at Mississippi State was pretty impressive. And so again, Georgia is a well-oiled machine. And again, you talk about all the stuff. I mean, just for what they've done this season now, having to replace as many guys they did have to replace, they just keep on trucking. And the Kentucky road game does not look as intimidating now as it did a while back. And here they are. And like you said with the Vols, I think Tennessee will continue to do their best to impress the committee and go play at South Carolina this weekend. And find our preview up for that game. And we'll try to somehow sneak their way in despite not playing in the SEC championship.
All right. Thank you for watching today. Thank you to our presenting sponsor, Steaks. If you like this, be sure to hit the subscribe button. I think probably as we're doing this, we're going over 5,000 today, which is pretty good given we started the year at 300. So we do a live stream every Wednesday night. You can catch that at 8 Central. We cover basketball. We are already covering plenty of basketball. Got more hoops content coming this week, and baseball when we get here. He's Blake Lovell. I'm Chris Lee of Southeastern 14, presented by Steaks. And thank you for watching.